Don't get me wrong. I love interacting with the kids as much as any of the other camp counselors, but sometimes it is nice to have a bit of peace and quiet. I had just cracked open a beer in the staff lounge when Michael stumbled in, his face as pale as the lasagna cheese we served at lunch. "They are already asleep?" I asked. That was fast. He took a moment to register that I was there. He shook his head, as if to clear his mind, then slipped into the seat opposite of me. There was a wound-up intensity in his eyes, and so when he leaned forward and rested his weight on his knees, he seemed like a panther, ready to pounce. "Yeah, asleep, I think. Lights out was 10 minutes ago." "Then why the long face? Your duties are over for the day. Come on, man, relax a little. You'll never make it through the summer if you worry about every little thing. Those kids are tough. They will be fine." He laughed, then took a swig of beer I offered. His smile didn't fool me. When he put the can back on my desk, I could see his hand shaking ever so slightly. "Hey Mel," he said. "You were the one who wrote up the report for Alicia, right?" "Report? What? You mean the incident from last week?" "That's the one. You mind if you tell me a little bit more about it?" I kicked my feet up onto the table. I was tempted to remind him not to waste time on nonsense like this, but something about his manner was unsettling. Michael's always been the dependable, sensible one between us, and our parents frequently reminded him to watch out for me. It was strange to have the roles seemingly reversed. "There's not much to tell. It was covered in the morning's briefings too. You recall a reminder for us to tone down the scary stories we share with the kids? You know how they are, with their overreactive imaginations. Apparently some of them were beginning to get nightmares, and it was disturbing the usual camp schedule. You were the only one who talked to Alicia about it, right? The camp commandment specifically asked you to speak to her?" "That's right." You figured that maybe an elder sister figure would help Alicia see that it was not healthy for her to dwell on such morbid matters all the time. "So I did. I got cones for us from the canteen, and we sat down by the swings to talk. Look, I know this is going to sound weird, but would you mind telling me exactly what she told you? I caught some of it through the grapevine, but I want to be sure, just in case." I swear, all those stories about twins being psychic are dead wrong. I did not know what went on in his head half the time, but Michael would not have asked if it was not important, so I pulled the daily log file out from the bottom drawer at my desk. Let's see. Alicia Nort, 11 years old. I spoke to her last Thursday for half an hour. This was the day after the rest of her bunk woke up half the camp with her screaming at 5 bloody a.m. I remember. "Well, see for yourself," I said as I passed the file over. It was just another campfire night. When it came to her turn to tell a scary story, Alicia initially refused. They pressed her though, and eventually she opened up. She said that she had special powers which allowed her to see underground, like right through the soil and such. Apparently, there's a limit to how far down she can see, but on most occasions she is able to peer perhaps, 20 feet down? She's a living, breathing metal detector, if you will. She also added that her powers are not limited to finding metal. She can basically see anything underground, right? Michael said, as long as it's still in recognizable shape, which includes small animals, rocks, mineral deposits, twigs, even bones. That's right. I mean, seriously, that's creepy enough as it is, for a kid like that to go into such detail as to what she has found before. And that's when someone else said that it's pretty lame. So Alicia then claimed that when her parents took a wrong turn on a road trip the month before, and they ended up at Two Springs, you know, that town about 50 miles north of here, she got a really bad vibe about the place. She activated her powers on a whim, and that was when she realized just how messed up the place was. She saw zombies, right? That's what I heard. Not exactly. The kids are not great at retelling stories, and honestly, by the time the rumors made their rounds and circled back to me, I even heard it depicted as dragons and demons too. So I asked Alicia to describe it in her own words, and I paused as I consulted the file. She said that she saw skeletons, rows and rows of them, covering almost every square inch of that town, like shells dotting at a beach at low tide. Here, she even drew a picture for me too. How helpful, right? I plucked the drawing out and turned it around for Michael to see. Alicia wasn't a great artist by any measure, but she captured the absurdity of it well enough. It was a standard A5 sheet, but she had covered it border to border with skeletons, dozens and dozens of them, arranged as neatly as the spokes on a wheel, in a concentric circle around the plot of land she had labeled 2 Springs. She had taken pains to bring out the details on the skeletons too. They weren't just low-resolution stickmen with skulls, but rather individually shaded concentrations of calcium and collagen. Honestly, I would have been less creeped out if she had just drawn a pit full of jumbled bones, just like Hollywood portrays in just about every jungle adventure movie ever. But these skeletons were all depicted as prostrate on their knees, their foreheads down, their arms held out in front of them, side by side, row after row. They resembled a flock of devout, deep and reverent prayer. And no matter where the skeletons were, they were all facing the same direction. Towards a single, double-storied building in the center of town, with a sharpened cross on the top, windowless, dark as the finest onyx, not so much obstructed by man's hands, but birthed straight from the depths of earth. What? What are they doing? These skeletons. Beats me, I said with a shrug of my shoulders. What did she do next? She told her parents, I reckon. Nope, she just told them that she left the stove on at home. That got them driving back on the double, and of course they never returned to 2 Springs. Smart kid if you ask me. If the rest pressed her for answers, I doubt she could have come up with anything satisfactory. Best to end her story the way she did. But it's got to mean something, right? All those skeletons there, right under the surface? The people living there had to know. Just think about it. If they did not... Hey, Michael. Look, you can't let these kids get under your skin. At their age, they will do whatever it takes to leave an impression. Alicia's just a normal kid. She just has a flair for drama. You know what I mean? She probably enjoys the attention too. So if you let them know that you're taking them seriously, you lose. Michael stared straight at me. There was a little mirth in his eyes. I saw her crying. You know, I went up to talk to her. She said the rest were refusing to talk to her anymore. I had heard about the incident, of course, so I gently reminded her that that's what happens when you tell an untruth just to scare people. She listened to you? She clammed up right when I told her that I didn't believe her. I assumed that she understood. That's the thing. She got angry then. Angry that I, too, didn't believe her. She said she could prove it. She said she would point out anything underground, and I could go dig and find out if she was lying or not. The laugh escaped me as easily as helium does a pierced balloon. It was too rich. Imagining my brother out there on his knees, digging away superstitiously. Gods, Michael, please don't tell me you took her seriously. Mel, you remember when we came here as campers ourselves, when we were kids too, right around her age? You recall how Dad gave me such a whacking when he realized I had lost my watch? You know, the set of 2 we bought each other? Yours was the Minnie, mine was the Mickey. I did remember. The strap of mine had worn out ages ago, but I had tucked the watch face away in my drawer at home. Man, that's still a thorn in your side? Jeez, it's been 15 years, man. He smiled, though about as weakly as the sun in winter. He reached out, then dropped a clod of soil onto the desk. The impact caused a few clumps of dry earth to break away and scatter, but the treasure was more or less intact. A child's watch. Simple, instantly recognizable. Black strap, streaked with mud. Glass face cracked and clouded. The watch hands were still, but there were tiny white gloves at the end of them, linking back to a cheerful mouse in ruby red pants and yellow buttons. I told her I had lost my watch out there in the field more than a decade ago. I believed it had come off during a game of tug-of-war, and the tall grass had probably consumed it. She walked right out there, scrunched her face up tight, then pointed to a single spot and asked me to dig. 10 minutes later, I found this there. I reached out to touch the watch. It was real. I felt it pressed back against my fingertips, as if it were straining to tell me that no, I was not imagining this. "So Mel," Michael said, "you think we should go check out Two Springs now?"